Hello, and welcome to the Program Design and Evaluation course. This is Professor Saltanat Liebert at VCU. Today's topic is qualitative data analysis. In the lesson on data collection, I already talked about qualitative data collection. So in this lecture, I would like to focus on the analysis of qualitative data. And next week, we'll focus on quantitative data analysis. In an earlier lecture, we talked about the research process in evaluation. A rough outline is that we start with a definition of the focus of the evaluation. We then specify the evaluation questions. The next step is conceptualization, which basically means we specify what we mean by terms that are the focus of the evaluation. We then operationalize key variables, defining how each concept is measured and observed. The step after this is selecting the methodology. It could be quantitative, qualitative, or mixed method. In terms of the evaluation design, we need to decide which of the three categories to use: experimental design, non-experimental design, or quasi-experimental design. Then we need to decide which sampling method to use. The step after that is data collection. This is followed by the analysis of the data that is collected. Then the next step in the evaluation process is to write up the findings, typically in the form of the evaluation report. And the final step is dissemination of the evaluation findings and promotion of the use of the evaluation to improve programs. Today's lecture focuses on data analysis stage of the evaluation process, and specifically on the analysis of qualitative data. As you might remember from a lecture a few weeks ago, there is a wide variety of qualitative research methods. They include ethnography, participant observation, informal interviews, formal interviews, which can be semi-structured or structured, and focus groups. Qualitative research yields mainly unstructured, text-based data. These textual data could be interview transcripts, observation notes, or diary entries. In some cases, qualitative data can also include pictorial display, audio or video clips, or other multimedia materials. Qualitative data analysis is not a technical exercise as in quantitative research, but more of an intuitive and creative process of inductive reasoning, thinking, and theorizing. Data analysis in qualitative research is defined as the process of systematically searching and arranging the interview transcripts, observation notes, or other non-textual materials that the researcher accumulates to increase the understanding of the phenomenon. The process of analyzing qualitative data predominantly involves coding or categorizing the data. Basically, it involves making sense of large amounts of data by reducing the volume of raw information, followed by identifying significant patterns, and finally, drawing meaning from data and subsequently building a logical chain of evidence. For the sake of simplicity, in this lecture, I will tell you about how one would go about analyzing the interview data. This slide summarizes the key steps in interview data analysis, but is not meant to be an exhaustive description of the data analysis process. I think I mentioned in an earlier lecture a study I conducted on undocumented immigrants from the former Soviet Union. For that study, I used participant observation and semi-structured interviews. I asked permission to audio record the interviews, which was crucial for me to be able to fully capture the content of each interview. In a few cases, audio recording was not possible because of the background noise, so I took detailed notes during and immediately after the interviews. I then transcribed the interview recordings word for word. The next step is coding this large volume of textual data. Codes are tags or labels for allocating identified themes or topics from the data compiled in the study. Traditionally, coding was done manually, with the use of colored pens to categorize data, and subsequently cutting and sorting the data. And I mean literally, we would cut pieces of paper with excerpts from the transcripts to sort and organize them into themes. These days, the technology is more advanced, so now we can use qualitative data analysis software, such as NVivo or Atlas TI. Coding allows us to observe themes that emerge from data. It's a good practice to develop a codebook to analyze qualitative data. A codebook is a list of codes with code definitions, which allows researchers to keep track of how codes are being used to make sense of the data. Typically, you would develop a codebook prior to data collection based on code definitions that come from the literature review. An example of such a codebook is shown on this slide. Once you collect the data, codebooks are often revised to reflect what took place during data collection. For example, study participants might have a different interpretation of what some concepts mean compared to what you expected as a researcher based on the literature that you've read. A study that employs both deductive and inductive codes invites researchers to carry with them what they know from the literature and also listen to what is new in the data. What you see on this slide is an excerpt from an academic article where I explained the findings from the semi-structured interviews I conducted. Based on the interview transcripts that I analyzed and coded, 8 themes emerged. The first one is underlined in red, and there are 7 more that I list. Then I discuss each of the themes in depth. It is also customary to illustrate the findings with quotations from the interviews. You can see an example in the lower left corner of this slide. Once the data analysis is completed, the next stage is to write up the evaluation report. The purpose of evaluation research is to offer some solutions to social problems and to improve public programs. So it is important to put some thought into how evaluation findings are disseminated and put to use. This is the end of the lecture on qualitative data analysis. Thank you for your attention and take care.